welcome to the official launch of Port Perry's birthday, which has been 150 years in the making. I'm Jonathan van Bilsen, and I'm standing in beautiful Palmer Park on the shores of Lake Scugog in Port Perry on what has turned out to be a fantastic day. Today launches the beginning of the sesquicentennial, with 150 ways to celebrate over the summer. I can't begin to list all the people involved in making this event a success, but trust me when I tell you, many people work many long hours during these difficult times. Everyone here today is socially distanced and wearing masks when we're not on camera. Safety is our main priority. We have lots of fantastic speakers and a few surprises for you as well. We'll begin with the official greeting from our town crier, Mr. Bill McKee.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh. Your Worship, Bobby Drew, Mayor of the Township of Scugog, Wilma Watton, Regional Councillor and Chair of the Sesquicentennial Celebration, Mississaugas of Scugog Island Chief Kelly LaRocca and Councillors Jamie Coons and Laurie Colwell, Jonathan van Bilsen, MC, Flag Designer Rebecca Rains, Elizabeth Bigelow, virtual attendees, the Honourable Aaron O'Toole, MP, Lindsay Park, MPP, Ted Griffin, longtime resident, and the Geelan family. All ye fair folk of Port Perry, Scugog, and beyond, hearken. From time immemorial, the First Nations lived off this land. In 1821, Reuben Crandall settled here. And then William Purdy built a Purdy Good Dam in 1834. In 1852, this village was named Port Perry, and on this day, in 1871, was incorporated. Over the years, the village was decimated, destroyed, or damaged, but always came back better and stronger. From Chiefs Jacob Crane to Kelly LaRocca, from Reeves, Joseph Bigelow to Robert Kenny, from Mayors Lawrence Malcolm to Bobby Drew, Port Perry has maintained its own identity and stayed quaint. Today, community celebrates community because Port Perry is 150 years old. Despite COVID restrictions, I paraphrase Paul Simon, there must be 150 ways to love Port Perry. Port Perry is a place to grow and also a place to go. You can go anywhere there. Take in a country fair there. Food, crafts, wine, and beer here. Any time of year here. Music, plays, and arts too. Vehicles and carts too. Horticulture, agriculture, native culture, bioculture. Port Perry has it all. Happy birthday, Port Perry and Miigwech. Merci. Thank you for all you have given us. God bless all residents, past and present, and those who want to live here. God bless Mother Earth and its bounty. God bless the United Canada. And God save the Queen.
Wow, what a fantastic voice and quite the sense of humor. Our next guest is the chair of the Port Perry 150 Committee, who will no doubt downplay her involvement, but let me tell you, she was on top of every single detail, and without her, this event would not be as fantastic as it is. Please welcome the chair of the 150 Committee and the Regional Councillor for Scugog, Wilma Watton.
Scugog is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich Indigenous history. Today we acknowledge that we are gathering on the traditional territories of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nations. We recognize and appreciate the historic Indigenous connection to this land and recognize the contributions First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples have made both in shaping and strengthening our community in particular, our province, and our country as a whole. We are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. It's a beautiful day here in Palmer Park in Port Perry. The trees are almost in full leaf, and the sounds of songbirds fill the air. People wander along the waterfront trail or stop to enjoy the view of the lake from one of the many park benches here. The global pandemic has occupied much of our lives over the last year and a half, but there is optimism that an end is in sight. A steady road to recovery is hoped for. This community has seen many changes since 1871, when at a June session of Ontario County, Port Perry, with its population of 2,000, was incorporated and given the status of Port Perry Village. Hello, I'm Wilma Wadden, Chair of the Port Perry 150 Planning Committee, and I welcome you to celebrate Port Perry's anniversary with us. There will be opportunities to learn about our history through self-guided walking tours, cycling tours, and scavenger hunts. Delicious special menu items and specially prepared beverages can be enjoyed at our restaurants and pubs. Scugog Council for the Arts, Theatres on the Ridge, Household Harmonies, and Scugog Shores will offer many opportunities to enjoy the arts and culture available in our beautiful town. There will be car rallies, cycling tours, Lake Scugog adventures, river kayaking tours to entice you to explore beyond the borders of our village. I would like to thank the members of this committee for their enthusiasm and commitment to these celebrations. With the theme of Community Celebrating Community, we have created a list of 150 ways to celebrate Port Perry throughout the summer and fall, and plans are being made to present a grand finale between Christmas and New Year's. Thank you, Bev Brown, Julie Curran, Carol Salamone, Lana Crosby, Tony Jansen, Michael Phillip, and Stuart Bennett. A special thank you and shout out to Mayor Drew for coordinating today's opening ceremony, and to Director Lori Bowers for communication, and also to our township staff who are always stepping up when we needed them. Special thanks to Jonathan van Bilsen, Tom Pupur, Peter Loricella, and Dave Bell, and JJ Green. We appreciate all your assistance in making this available for viewing on RogersTV and YouTube. But most importantly, we thank you. We thank the many business owners, service providers, and volunteers that have helped create this year-long event. Today we celebrate Port Perry's sesquicentennial anniversary, and I am pleased to be joined by our neighbors and friends, the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nations. Welcome to Councillor Laura Caldwell, Matthew Stevens, who will provide his gift of drumming and song, Councillor Jamie Coons, who will perform at the smudging ceremony, and following this, it is my distinct honor to welcome Chief Kelly LaRocca to say a few words.
Yeah. Chief LaRocca, we are honored and privileged to have you here to take part in our festivities today. We recognize that we are on the lands that your people have cherished and taken care of for generations. Thank you, Miigwech, for celebrating with us.
Anin Bojo, Najwe Makwakwe Indijnakas, Chichak Dodem, Wabshishi Dodem, Skugog Minisin Don Jaba. I would like to acknowledge first the beautiful song by Matthew Stevens and the smudge by Councillor Jamie Coons that started off today's presentations in a good way. I would also like to acknowledge, very importantly, all of the dignitaries and the townspeople who are present, and of course, Port Perry's town crier, who did a fabulous job. On behalf of Councillor Laura Caldwell, Councillor Jamie Coons, and the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, we want to acknowledge Port Perry's 150. We wish you nothing but good health, mindful growth and community development, and self-sufficiency and success to Port Perry and to the Scugog Township. The Mississaugas of Scugog Island are the original inhabitants of the place now known as Port Perry in the Township of Scugog. Our oral histories speak of the connection to the Mississauga peoples to these special lands since time immemorial, and our documented history attaches to this area for well over 300 years. We have borne witness to the many changes of Port Perry and the Scugog Township, and we are pleased to remain a strong foundation for this area that we all call home. The MSIFN, our First Nation, were originally settled at Balsam Lake, also known as Indian Point, and many of our Mississauga Nation ancestors extended as far north as nearby present-day Sault Ste. Marie. The ancestors of MSIFN initially tended to Scugog Island as harvesting grounds. The Trent-Severn waterway system was our ancestors' highway and brought our people to the place where they knew it was strategic to be in the summer months. Lake Scugog provided and continues to provide for our community through the harvesting of wild rice, berries, traditional medicines, fish, and small game. The MSIFN are signatories to Treaty 20 of 1818, a pre-Confederation treaty that extends into Lake Scugog and is the legal genesis of what are now our constitutionally protected rights to harvest, hunt, and fish in Lake Scugog. From 1923 to 2018, MSIFN was prohibited from harvesting in our pre-Confederation treaty areas due to the narrow interpretations of the 1923 Williams Treaties. Once MSIFN signed our final settlement agreement concerning claims arising from those Williams Treaties, our Treaty 20 harvesting rights were formally recognized and reinstated by federal and provincial governments. It is not widely known that the ancestors of MSIFN were forcibly moved by government from Scugog Island. After a couple of years of living with very scarce resources, former Chief Jacob Crane brought our people back to Scugog Island in 1843, only to find that all waterfronts had been taken up by private ownership. The community then decided to use its treaty annuity monies it had saved to purchase back what is now approximately 800 acres of mostly farmlands we now refer to as the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation. The MSIFN spent many years struggling under the limitations of the Indian Act and lived with very little, given our limited water frontage to harvest. MSIFN later signed on to the Framework Agreement for First Nations Lands Management, which ultimately enabled the opening of the Great Blue Heron Casino in 1997. Small but mighty, MSIFN's community donations to the township and region and local causes have exceeded $34 million since the casino's inception. In the tradition of our culture, MSIFN continued its charitable donations program, even though the model of the charitable casino was changed. MSIFN looks forward to many, many more years of success once our casino reopens post-pandemic. Of great importance is our relationship with the township. Our communities have come a long way in the evolution of our relationship, but there will always be room for improvement on both sides of Lake Scugog. On this 150-year anniversary of the creation of the Township of Scugog, let us commit to aim high. Let us commit to nurturing our relationship of one of reciprocity, one of mutual respect and rehabilitation and reconciliation. Our respective success and happiness depends on it, and I am confident that the MSIFN and the Scugog Township will deliver. On this occasion, we offer a gift from our culture to yours to be hung with pride in the Port Perry Municipal Office. It was handmade by MSIFN member Cody Williamson. I would invite Councillor Laura Caldwell to please come up to the podium, as well as Mayor Bobby Drew, to pass along this gift of friendship. Please accept this as a measure of our respect and our continued commitment to partnership. Miigwech, thank you, and Bamapi, until we next meet.
Miigwech for this wonderful gift. It will be placed in a prominent location in our municipal office. May it allow all the good thoughts and dreams for the future of Scugog, our friendship with our friends and neighbors, the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, to continue to reach us. Thank you. We hope that you will accept our gift of this commemorative flag for this occasion. It is a testament to the past, the future, our relationship with your people, and the friendship we share.
Thank you to Chief Kelly LaRocca and all the representatives of the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation for that wonderful presentation. When visiting Port Perry, one cannot help but notice the massive grain elevator at the end of Queen Street overlooking the lake. This amazing landmark of the town has stood here since its construction in 1874, making it the oldest in Canada. The Port Perry grain elevator was built by George Curry, who quickly realized the tide of business was moving from Prince Albert to Port Perry. He purchased a property on the northeast corner of Queen and Perry Streets and erected a wooden building to house a general store. By the time he was ready to move to Port Perry in 1872, he had removed the wooden structure and built an attractive two-story brick building into which he moved his new business. Our celebrations today are all about building our town on a historic past. Sometimes I wonder how life would have been back in the day when Joseph Bigelow, the first reeve of the town, as well as his wife Elizabeth, walked the somewhat muddy streets. We're very honored today to be able to use modern technology and transport someone through our time portal. Please welcome from Port Perry of 1871, Mrs. Elizabeth Bigelow.
Your Worship, most esteemed and honored guests, good people of Port Perry, thank you very much for allowing me to bring greetings on this momentous occasion from my husband, Mr. Joseph Bigelow, your first reeve of our newly incorporated village of Port Perry. My esteemed husband has been lately called away on urgent business, and he has asked that I extend to you his most profound regret at not being present on this illustrious occasion. He would not have you think that his new ventures are in any way of a disobliging nature, merely that they are, regrettably at present, consuming of his interests and energies. In his stead, I will do my utmost to represent, with the humblest of sincerity, his greetings and felicitations. Mr. Bigelow has suggested, in the most delicate of manners, that I draw your attention to the once great accomplishment of the new Port Perry-Port Whitby Railway. As you will know, my dear husband was its chief proponent, the first president, and major investor. This project, of which he was most prodigiously proud, was of monumental importance to our village and the adjacent farming communities. Mr. Bigelow has reminded me that it was by means of the railway that our newly incorporated community overtook Prince Albert and Manchester in importance. This was no small matter, as there were those certain types and individuals in Prince Albert who maintained very conflated images of themselves, now did they not? The station once stood very proudly right where we are at this moment. The railway became diminished of insignificance once Colonel McLaughlin and his dubious horseless carriages became prevalent in the area. But in all good confidence, my husband and I are both of the opinion that it was a short-sighted thing when the railway lines were lifted. Our grain elevator, right there, was built in 1873 by our dear friend Mr. Curry, and it is the oldest one of its kind in the country. It stands as a wonderful reminder of the grain that was shipped here, proudly helping to feed a growing nation. Mr. Bigelow has also been keen to remind me that the town hall, also constructed in 1873, and also, he modestly declined to say, initiated by him, is a fine building and has served us well not only as a town hall through its many years, but also per times as a fire station, a courthouse and jail, a moving picture show, and is now, as I understand it, a very fine performance venue with entertainments that rival Toronto and New York. Many changes and innovations have been wrought in our fine community over the years. Perhaps among the finest and most utilitarian of these is the replacement of the floating bridge on Scugog Island. Many of you will no doubt remember the painful loss of carts and goods when they were toppled into the water. It was a fearful and treacherous thing when we needed to attempt the crossing. In 1876, logs and earth were put in place to provide a semi-permanent bridge. Now the ice often cracked it apart, and high rains would often wash it away. But for the most part, our crossings were more secure and the journey far less perilous. I understand that improvements have continued to be made because of my husband's grand vision. As I have said, many wonderful achievements have taken place here, such as when the village rallied after the great fires of 1883, 1884, and 1901. In an indefatigable community effort to restore, rebuild, and reach new heights of greatness. Mr. Bigelow and I are certain that this dear, sweet town will continue always to prosper. I thank you for your kind attention and assure you that our family will continue to pray for the safety and well-being of our growing town and all of its citizens.
Thank you, Mrs. Bigelow, and feel free to stay in our time period as long as you like. Maybe you can participate in many of the 150 ways to celebrate our town's birthday. Joseph and his twin brother Joel Bigelow were born in 1829, west of Bradford. When Joseph was 22, his father heard of the death of Peter Perry, a visionary in Port Perry, who had great ambitions. Hiram, Joseph's father, immediately saw this as an opportunity for his sons and purchased a parcel of land for them to make their fortune. Joseph and Joel built a small general store on Queen Street. Prior to this, Port Perry was the industrial part of Scugog, and all social and commercial business was done in Prince Albert. Joseph was courting the daughter of a member of Parliament and proposed marriage to her. Elizabeth Paxton accepted, but this presented a problem, as brother Joel was living with Joseph in the small house adjacent to the store. After the wedding, Joel moved to Whitby and shortly relocated to Chicago, where he opened and operated the Bigelow Tea Company. Joseph and his wife Elizabeth decided it was time to expand the Port Perry venture, and in 1863 tore down their existing building. This was replaced with a giant 3-story structure known as the Royal Arcade. The business expanded to include clothing, medicines, hardware, a post office, and a branch of the Royal Canadian Bank. This undertaking was very successful, and Joseph became Port Perry's first postmaster. Our next guest has lived in Port Perry but now makes his home in Ottawa as well as Durham region. I'm pleased to welcome the leader of the official opposition party for Canada, the Honourable Aaron O'Toole.
Happy 150 Port Perry. It is an absolute privilege to represent the community of Port Perry, a town I grew up in. Port Perry is home to one of my favorite Canadian restaurants, the Piano Inn Cafe, where I have the unique honor each year of judging the grilled cheese contest. I also love to stop in at the Old Flame Brewery and have a pint whenever I'm in town. These and so many other local businesses actively give back to our community and help make it so special. Especially during these difficult times of COVID, I encourage you to support our local businesses as much as you can. Port Perry also has a strong arts community and talented artists. In my constituency office, I've showcased beautiful pieces by local artists, and I was also proud to have a sculpture from local artist Tyler Briley dedicated to hang in Parliament to mark the death of a hero from the Great War. Port Perry is also the only town in Canada that has an annual tartan parade and Kirkin of the Tartan. Jack and I love taking part in this important Scottish-Canadian tradition. And I wouldn't miss the annual Veterans in Vets Canada Day Parade, where the town celebrates our country by starting the day with a tribute to our veterans. Through the many challenges of the past year, our community has looked out for one another. That is what makes Port Perry so special, the people. So happy sesquicentennial to the people of Port Perry, the prettiest small town in Ontario.
Thank you, Mr. O'Toole. Isn't Port Perry a great place to live, play, and work? Over the years, Port Perry has suffered from several fires. The first devastating blaze started during a sleepy Sunday night in November of 1883. The source was the Port Perry House Hotel on the northeast corner of Water and Queen Streets. A strong wind from the lake forced the flames westward and wiped out 1/3 of the businesses on the north side of Queen Street. The business community immediately began to rebuild in a grander, more modern style. A mere 7 months later, however, another blaze began in the center of Queen Street south side at the Mansion Hotel. The fire consumed every building from Water Street to John Street, as well as destroying everything on the south side of North Street and the north side of Mary Street. It was an insurmountable economic tragedy, as the merchants were just emerging from the loss of the November fire the previous year. A major heat wave hit Port Perry at the end of June, and no doubt people had their windows open in an effort to cool down. On the evening of July 3rd, the breeze picked up as the wind swept west from Water Street. Shortly after midnight, the town was awakened by the ringing of the bells atop the town hall, which is located where now the Town Hall Theatre is, on the southwest corner of Queen and Simcoe Streets. A handful of volunteer firefighters made their way to the town hall to gather what little firefighting equipment was available. A fire had been noticed in the stables behind the Mansion Hotel, where now the post office is. The strong wind blew the fire west, then across the road, then east, swallowing up everything in its path. The wooden buildings were dry from the heat. It took less than an hour for the business section to be consumed. Flames reached skyward and were so high they could be seen from Oshawa and Port Hope. Fortunately, no one perished, and by the fall of that year, the town was well on its way of rebuilding. In 1901, yet another fire began in Spruill's bakery shop, which is now Brock's for Kids. It destroyed half of the south side of Queen Street. Fortunately, that was the last major fire in the downtown core of Port Perry. Our next guest is our provincial representative who visits our town as often as she can and partakes in most events we have. Please welcome our Member for Provincial Parliament, MPP Lindsay Park.
I'm Lindsay Park, your local Member of Provincial Parliament. It's a pleasure to join you virtually for this very special 150th anniversary celebration. There are so many things I love about Port Perry. I love the little shops and cafes, the beautiful boardwalk along Lake Scugog. I love the vibrant arts and culture scene. I think of Town Hall 1873. And I love the people. Port Perry has a strong family-like community spirit that makes people feel welcomed and cared for. Oh, and we can't forget their love for sports. Hockey, curling, pickleball, and even sport shooting, just to name a few activities. And by the way, I'm so looking forward to hosting another free skate next January before another Mojax game. The warmth of the Port Perry community has always stood out to me. And during these challenging times, the heart of Port Perry continues to shine through. Happy sesquicentennial, Port Perry. Enjoy celebrating one of the best little towns in Ontario.
Thank you, Ms. Park, and hopefully we'll see you here soon. Our next speaker is the chair of this great region. I recently had the pleasure of interviewing him and was impressed with his in-depth knowledge of the northern part of Durham. Please welcome the chair of Durham Region, Mr. John Henry.
Hi, I'm John Henry, chair of Durham Region. It's no secret that Port Perry has a reputation. It's one of the best and most picturesque small towns in Ontario. A place famous for its niche downtown and stunning lake views that rejuvenate the body and the mind. It's a town inspired by its history, a showcase of Victorian architecture blended with modern design, home to some of Canada's most talented artists, people who almost feel their inspiration in the air. Congratulations to Port Perry on this major milestone, 150 years since joining the Township of Scugog. On behalf of the Region of Durham, I applaud the town's continued strength and resilience, its dedication to helping families thrive, and its dedication to partnerships that can help propel local success for decades to come.
Lake Scugog, as we know it today, was nothing more than a series of marshy fields with a river winding its way to Lindsay. Both sides of the river were lush carpets of rice fields and tamarack bush. Certainly not a place one could imagine settling. The entire landscape was altered when William Purdy decided to build that dam in what is now Lindsay, in an effort to operate a sawmill. Purdy finished his dam in 1828. The pressure from the water caused it to break, and the following year he rebuilt it. The construction of William Purdy's dam changed life for the residents of the area. Initially, it raised the water by 10 feet, but the second dam added another 7 feet to an already dangerously high level. Thousands of mature trees were killed and 60,000 acres of land were flooded. Over the next 10 years, there were several skirmishes by local farmers who had armed themselves with intent of destroying the dam. Their lands and livestock had suffered greatly as a result of Purdy's initiatives, and enough was enough. At the time the farmers were hacking away at the dam, the government was contemplating the construction of a series of locks for navigation purposes. This project was started in 1838 and completed in 1844. Scugog Island in the early 1800s was actually a piece of land surrounded by a murky river, twisting through swamps and bogs. The lake developed as a result of the dam built in Lindsay. It's significant to note the dam project undertaken by the government was done in partnership with William Purdy, who owned a sawmill and gristmill. In fact, it was known as Purdy's Dam for many years. Much to the chagrin of homesteaders, Purdy's Dam remained, and a series of boats and barges were operated during the summer months between the mainland and Scugog Island. In winter, of course, it was easy to traverse the frozen lake. Sadly, there were numerous reports of horses and wagons falling through the ice. Action was necessary, and in 1855 the government agreed to provide a grant of £125 to the people of Scugog to build a floating bridge between Port Perry and the island. Scugog would pay the remainder, a mere £1,000 or $5,000, and a floating bridge construction was underway. The bridge was completed the following year and ferry service was discontinued. The bridge was a great improvement, but not without problems. In 1876, a request for quotation went out to begin building the first leg of a permanent bridge, 600 feet long and 15 feet wide. 3 tenders came in, ranging from $2,350 to $1,750. Of course, the job was awarded to the lowest bidder. Wooden slabs were laid crossways and packed with earth. When it was finally completed, a new 23-foot wide roadway was built, putting an end once and for all to the rickety old wooden bridge. Once the initial 600 feet had been completed, discussions about continuation came to an abrupt halt. The chairman of the Road and Bridges Committee refused to recommend any further extension of the work, stating a large amount of money had been spent on the first section and they were still not sure it would stand up. This, of course, caused quite a conundrum. A bridge half completed and a floating bridge constantly in need of repair. It took a year, but the Roads and Bridges Committee finally authorized $4,000 to be set aside to complete the remaining 1,300 feet of the Scugog Bridge. The bridge was completed in the late 1800s. In 1925, the bridge was widened to accommodate motor vehicles, and 3 years later, a Toronto firm was contracted to build a concrete bridge to replace part of the old wooden structure. In April of 1960, water in Lake Scugog rose 30 inches higher than the bridge, forcing it to be closed to traffic. All in all, amid the turmoil, confusion, ignorance, and procrastination, Scugog Island was securely linked to the town of Port Perry and beyond. Our next guest needs no introduction. She can be seen chatting with residents and businesses on a regular basis and has been serving our community in a political arena for over 28 years. Please welcome the Mayor of Scugog Township, Her Worship, Mayor Bobby Drew.
Good afternoon. Thank you, John, for your kind introduction. I'm pleased we could host today to launch the Port Perry 150th. I wish you a warm welcome on behalf of the Township of Scugog Council. I would like to highlight, due to the COVID gathering restrictions, the remaining members of Council have sent their regrets. Councillors Ian McDougall, Jana Guido, Angus Ross, Deborah Kiesebrink, and Lance Brown. Although not able to join due to the pandemic gathering limits, the Port Perry 150th has the full support and endorsement of our Council, and I am pleased to offer best wishes on their behalf. I'd like to thank Chief Kelly LaRocca and the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation for being a part of today's event. Our flags were raised today following 215 hours of flying at half-mast in honor of and to recognize the 215 children found at the residential school in Kamloops, BC. The statement I issued calls on the federal and all levels of government to implement the calls of action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. We will continue to work with our neighbors and our friends, the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation. The township is planning to permanently place a land acknowledgement at the municipal office. It is important for us to know and understand our history, providing an opportunity to learn, to be better as we continue to grow and evolve as a society. Today, we are coming together to acknowledge and celebrate Port Perry's sesquicentennial, our 150th. Thank you, MP Aaron O'Toole, MPP Lindsay Park, and Durham Regional Chair John Henry for your support, for your wonderful words, and for being a part of our celebrations. We continue to navigate the pandemic with our celebration being developed through COVID lens and focus on community celebrating community. Deputy Mayor, Regional Councillor Wilma Watton took on the challenge of leading an initiative to recognize this special milestone in Port Perry's history. A group of incredible volunteers stepped forward to join and bring a positive focus for the community. I would like to extend my deep appreciation and gratitude. On behalf of Council and our community, thank you to them and to those who have offered their time and their resources. This team, once established, immediately got to work designing a year-long celebration with a COVID lens. Amazing. They have developed 150 ways to celebrate Port Perry. You will find an array of safe, fun activities and contests that reflect our history and appreciate the unique things we offer. There are also a variety of special local offers from our retailers and our restaurants. Thank you to the organizing committee and our local businesses, those volunteers who have given their skills, time, and resources. Everyone coming together and making a difference. This is the special part of our wonderful hometown. Our volunteers and the generosity of our community is what makes Port Perry and the Township of Scugog such a wonderful place. On my first visit to Port Perry, I fell in love with the community. It's not just one thing. It is a combination of everything. The people, the setting, atmosphere, you just feel it. This is a wonderful place to live, grow a family, business, friends, the local businesses and their generosity, our amazing hospital and schools, our faith communities that work together, the Legion, strong advocates for our veterans in Canada, arts and culture. You are surrounded by inspiration and energy. It cultivates creativity. Our lake, an integral part of the community, our environment, the people. You are key to our community and make this place what it is, our home. Join the celebration. Enjoy the glimpse of past through the historic photos being shared in the community. Happy 150th Port Perry.
A fellow named William Purdy, owner of several mills around Gananoque, decided to change careers after his mills burnt to the ground. He went into the stagecoach business along Kingston Road east of Toronto. After successfully selling that venture, he made his way north to what is now Lindsay. He settled there along with his third or fourth wife and built a sawmill on the Scugog River. In an effort to obtain a strong flow of water to his power mills, Purdy decided to build a 10-foot dam. His incentive to recklessly get this project off the ground was a promise by the government to give him 400 acres of land and a $600 bonus if he could be operational in 4 years. Sure enough, by September of 1828, the project was completed. As water filled the dammed area, the pressure became too severe and the barrier broke. It took another year to rebuild, but by the spring of 1830, William Purdy was in business. But not for long. The second dam was 7 feet higher than the original, causing the Scugog Basin to flood, raising the water by 7 feet. This doubled the surface area of the lake and killed thousands of trees. There were, of course, no environmental assessments or any type of studies completed for that matter, and the water grew quite stagnant. This resulted in a wave of deadly fevers on the surrounding farms, and as you can imagine, the new lake was not very popular with residents. One day in the summer of 1838, settlers from the countryside decided to do something. They grabbed their axes, pitchforks, and whatever they could find, and tore the dam apart. No charges were laid, and Purdy was forced to lower the elevation. A few years later, the Board of Works constructed a dam and a lock for navigation into Lake Scugog. This was completed in 1844 and included a log flume. In exchange, Purdy relinquished all claims against the damage done by the residents and maintained the dam and the flume. In spite of all the hazards, settlements began to spring up along the shores of the newly formed lake, and commercial boat traffic grew. As an aside, the water from Lake Scugog flows north into the Scugog River and then into Sturgeon Lake and the Trent Severn Waterway. The name Scugog has two possible origins. It's either an Ojibwe word meaning marshy waters or a Mississauga word meaning waves leap over a canoe. Port Perry has many lifelong residents who were born here, work here, and have lots of fun here. A number of them have operated businesses, and consequently have given a great deal of personal time and dedication to ensure our town is as great as it can be. One such person is our next guest. Please welcome Mr. Ted Griffin.
So Ted, Port Perry is turning 150 this year, and I'm guessing you've been living here for 90 some odd years.
That's right.
What do you love about living in Port Perry?
It's the lake, because we are only a stone's throw from it, and everything happens down the lake.
Ted, I was wondering if you have any funny stories to share about the business community in Port Perry.
Yes, we, as member of the Chamber of Commerce, we went to council to act with our idea. And our idea was to cover the main street over and park the cars up on top, and then the people could walk underneath and go to the stores, like they did at Oshawa Shopping Center. So anyway, we presented our ideas to the council, and they laughed so hard at us. And I'll never forget J.J. Gibson, who was the mayor. He laughed so much, he almost fell off his chair.
Wow, that must have been something to see. Ted, I'm wondering if you remember any special events from when you were growing up in town.
Yes, an airplane landed on the lake and pulled up to our dock. And so, because the airplane's never landed on our lake before much, I ran down, and the next thing I knew, out walked it had one cabin and an open cockpit for the pilot, and out walked our Governor General in his plume hat and red uniform. It was very impressive. He was going to open our new library on Queen Street.
And I'm guessing that would have been around 1934?
That's right.
Railroads, since their invention, have done wonders to unite a country, region, or a city. They have opened up rural areas to new products, services, and tourism. Port Perry was no different, and the prospect of a railroad to our community was a tremendous asset. In 1831, while still a member of the legislature, Peter Perry, founder of our town, had purchased a parcel of land in what is now Whitby. He persuaded the government to develop a harbor and build a wharf on his property. Of course, Peter Perry was pushing for a railway north to carry lumber and other products from Lindsay and the Scugog areas. At a meeting held in January in 1854, John Ham Perry, the youngest son of Peter Perry, who by the way passed away in 1851, made the motion to approve the necessary funds for the construction of a railway. A heated debate followed and resulted in a tie vote. The years went by and the railroad was still not approved. The editor of the Ontario Observer newspaper came up with a brilliant idea. He suggested the rails be laid, but instead of using a steam locomotive, a system of horse-drawn railway from Whitby to Port be adopted. Unfortunately, getting horses to cross the ridges was next to impossible, and the idea was abandoned. Finally, on November 15th of 1871, the first train rolled into the Port Perry station. The final run of the train happened in 1939, taking a group of school children from Port Perry to Whitby. The children were going to the Canadian National Exhibition grounds to see King George VI and Queen Elizabeth during their visit to Canada. The Port Whitby and Port Perry Railway Company was constantly under an umbrella of scandal and controversy during its construction. It was poorly built and constantly in need of repair. The ground was not treated properly prior to construction, and often the locomotive sank into the mud. Due to its difficulty in climbing the steep hills of the ridges, it became affectionately known as the Nip and Tuck. Over the course of its 68 years of existence, it was never able to emerge from its debts. Port Perry, along with many other communities in this great country of ours, is fortunate to have residents from all over the world move here and make this their home. Multiculturalism is a fundamental makeup of every city and town in Canada. We welcome visitors and residents alike from all over the world, and our next guests are 5 fairly new residents to not only Port Perry, but Canada as well. Please welcome, formerly from Syria, the Gilan family.
My name is Ahmad. I'm from Syria and I moved here 4.5 years ago. When we came here, they gave us the biggest and nicest welcoming, and they still welcome us to this day. And I want to thank all the people in Port Perry for standing with us and helping us out, starting our new things and learning a lot of new stuff here. This town is very nice and got the sweetest people and in it. And I have a Canadian daughter, and I'm very happy that she will get to Giro here and be part of Canada. And I have company AG Tiling and Painting. This is my daughter Rabab.
Hi, I am Rihab Al-Faras. I want to say thanks to Port Perry people, and especially thanks to my sponsor for helping us. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Abdullah. I'm 13 years old and I go to RH Cornish, and I wanted to say thanks to all the people of Port Perry for helping us and sponsoring us to bring.
Hi, my name is Miriam and I go to Port Perry High School in grade 12, and I'm really thankful for coming here and having sponsors.
Hi, my name is Khalid and I'm grade 12, and I'm very thankful to be here, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much for
all very people in Port.
To mark this special occasion, a contest was held to create a flag which best symbolizes the makeup of Port Perry. The winner was Rebecca Rains, who created an amazing perspective of our town. In Rebecca's own words, "Ever since I was young, my parents have taught me the local history of Port Perry, which led me to exploring my roots and heritage. I learned a great deal about what makes this town a thriving success, and that became the center for this design." From the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, to the early farmers and millers, to the development of the downtown core and waterfront, all key points in the history that created the fundamental foundation of Port Perry. Let us now watch as Rebecca raises the official Port Perry sesquicentennial flag, which she designed. Thank you, Rebecca. What an amazing job you did. Congratulations. Without question, the Bigelow House remains as one of the finest and best preserved examples of Italianate architecture in Ontario. It was built by the first owners, Joseph and Elizabeth Bigelow. After Joseph's brother left the business and the town, the house on Queen Street, where the Bigelows were living, was no longer up to Elizabeth's standards. Being a prominent lady of the town, it would not do to have a house on the Merchant Street. During the 1870s, the Bigelows moved their residence to 100 Perry Street. The house still stands today and was recently renovated to become a very modern dwelling within the confines of the historic shell. In the mid-1870s, the Bigelows decided to build the grandest home ever seen. In the fall of 1876, work began on what was to become known as Fairview Villa, but has always been referred to as the Bigelow House. It was quite an undertaking, which included a furnace with pipes running throughout the house to move air to every room. A septic tank 10 by 8 feet was constructed, and window frames were built out of 10-inch and 12-inch dressed timber. The main joists of the house were made by 2 by 12s. Even the types of nails were specified. The Bigelows raised their daughter and 4 sons, one who died in infancy, in the house, but as in any family, the house became too large for Joseph and Elizabeth. They invited their daughter and husband to live with them, who raised their 8 daughters. You can imagine the flurry of eligible bachelors visiting on a constant basis. Elizabeth decided to have most of the fireplaces bricked, as they created too much dust and soot. Many of these remained hidden until renovations were completed in the 1980s. I would now like to call on our town crier, Mr. Bill McKee, to close today's program with a very special message.
Oh yay! Oh yay! Oh yay! As the official town crier of the Township of Scugog, I declare and proclaim Port Perry 150 years old! God save the Queen! O Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Et ta valeur de foi trempée protégera nos foyers et nos doigts. Protégera nos foyers et nos